Hey everyone, I'm Pam, and this is my monthly update video letting you know everything that I was up to in the month of December. So December was a pretty good month for me. I think I managed to get a number of videos out even though I was at first concerned. I'm moving in less than 2 weeks now, so I thought I might be preoccupied with that, but I still ended up getting out 4 videos, including my sort of end-of-year content and playing a ton of games in December, so it was overall pretty good. I also was a guest on 2 podcasts, which I'm always excited to be. The first one was the Off-kilter podcast. This is done by my friends over at Polykill. This is Travis and Brian, and it was just a nice short chat. We sort of talked about some hypothetical situations. I was sort of put in the hot seat to answer some questions, and then we did some trivia, which was fun. I always love trivia, and I'm very competitive with it. So check out that. It's called Off-kilter Podcast if you want to see that. And the other one I was on was the RF Generation Collector Cast with my buddies Chris, Bill, and Kelsey over from the RF Generation site. And I was really happy to be on this because it's been a number of years since I was last a guest on that podcast. Actually, the podcast on its own had quite a large hiatus for a couple years. So I was invited specifically on this episode, and we talked about the Game Awards a little bit. We talked about our favorite video game vinyl, and then the main topic was PC big box collecting and PC games in general. So I had a lot of fun with that. That was a bit of a longer podcast. I think there's going to be a video version of it at some point, but I don't think it's out yet. So you can check that out in audio form. If the video ever does come out, I will share that later. But in the meantime, the links to both podcasts can be found in the description. For my first shout out of 2021, I want to shout out the channel Transparency. This is a very good and insightful video game essay channel. They talk about both gaming culture and everything that surrounds it, as well as some deeper, sort of more pointed dives on games, everything from Final Fantasy VII to Sayonara Wild Hearts, and even things like Sonic. I really like these videos. They're very cleverly written and often quite funny. A couple of my favorite videos that I would recommend you check out are a very recent one on the whole idea of the objective game review and how sort of silly that is as a concept in general. That's something that obviously resonates with me because I find it so silly when people can tell people they're not being objective enough, since reviews are not objective at all. And another one that I really liked was on Death Stranding and the weird way it treats women. And I feel like Kojima, him being weird about women is kind of an understatement. So I really liked that video as well. Overall, really great video essays. If you are interested, go check out Transparency. So this month I had very few pickups in terms of game-related things. In fact, as far as physical games go, the only thing I got was Immortals Phoenix Rising, and this was on sale, and I had a gift card that I won at work for EB Games, so I picked it up. I was really looking for a game that was optimized for the Series X, since I haven't played too much that has been yet. And I haven't played too far, only a couple hours so far, but I'm really enjoying this. It's been a long time since I've played like an open world Ubisoft game, because generally they don't really appeal to me. I've heard this compared to things like Assassin's Creed, which I don't really like at all, but also like Breath of the Wild. And it's very cool. They've got like it's narrated by 2 gods, which I really like. It makes it sort of more amusing and engaging to go through the story. And yeah, looking forward to putting more time into it in the new year. I also bought myself a little print as a sort of Christmas gift to myself. This is a print by Bruce Brenizzi, who does a lot of sort of game art. He's done the art on like Slay the Spire and Torment Tales of Numenera, or Tides of Numenera, a lot of like sort of card and board type games like Fantasy Flight and things. So I picked up this guy. It'd probably be better if it wasn't all rolled up, but I have a thing for like women melding with plants, and I also like graveyards. So this is a cemetery dryad, and that just really appealed to me. So looking forward to hanging this up in my new place when I get there. You might have noticed that I've put away or packed up all of my art already. I just sort of found this Vincent Valentine print that I bought a number of years ago and stuck it up there so the walls didn't look so bare. But yes, one of the things I'm super looking forward to with moving is like finding out where I'm going to put all my art. So I'll have many walls for it to go on. I think I need to get some things framed too, or it'll just like look more adult. So we will go on to what I've been playing, and I played through a ton of games in December. I was really trying to get through as many 2020 releases as possible in preparation for my sort of like end of year best or most disappointing games videos. And so I played a lot. I'm not going to talk about every single one since a few of them have ended up in my top 10 video, which you should watch if you haven't done that. But the first thing I played is Little Hope, which is the second in the Dark Pictures anthology. The first one was Man of Medan. I didn't really like Man of Medan. I didn't like the characters. I just found it kind of disappointing in general. I also played it through solo, whereas you can play this either couch co-op or online co-op. So with Little Hope, my friend Mel came over for the night and we played it all. Actually, like the next day we just played through the entire game. It was only like 4 hours or so in one sitting, just sort of passing the controller back and forth. And it was pretty good. The writing was a little suspect at the beginning of the game especially, but as it went on, I found it quite enjoyable. I sort of liked the overall story and the environment more than I did with Man of Medan. So Little Hope was really good. I definitely think that playing with a friend is the way to go with these games rather than playing through individually. But yeah, I think that one is worth a play. If you were disappointed by Man of Medan, you might like this one better. Another game I played that I was greatly anticipating is Empire of Sin, and this is a 1920s prohibition gangster style strategy game made by Brenda Romero, and I was so looking forward to this because I love strategy and I love the idea of doing it in that era. I had picked up another game called Omerta, which was a very similar concept for the 360 a while ago and didn't really end up liking that much. I feel like Empire of Sin is not quite finished. It's interesting, like you can pick all of these different gangsters. The combat is solid enough, if maybe a little bit on the simple side, whereas the overall taking over the whole neighborhood, building distilleries and bars and all the sort of things to make money are a little more complex. This is sort of a complaint I have about any game of this type, but I wish that when it came to the sort of grand strategy aspect, they would introduce things a little bit slower. I don't know if it's just me that I need a slow mode, but they sort of throw everything at you right at the beginning, and then I kind of forget what I'm supposed to be doing or what does what. And yeah, so I think there are some problems with just the design and it could be a little fleshed out more, but I really love the soundtrack and how it looks. The whole atmosphere is really cool. I played a bit of it and I sort of decided it wasn't going to be on my top or bottom list, so I put it aside. So I'll be putting more time into it sort of as we go through the year. I'm hoping for a few patches to just sort of spice things up a little bit in terms of the combat and things. But overall, it's a very interesting game, and I am looking forward to playing more Empire of Sin. So I also just wanted to talk a little more about Haven, and this is one that I talked about in my top 10 video. But this game was just such a nice surprise. I love it when games just seem to come out of nowhere, as a lot of my favorite games last year did. And this one, I hadn't heard anything about it, and then one day it just showed up on Game Pass, and I'm so happy it did. It's about two sort of runaway lovers who are, set to marry someone else, but they decide to leave on a spaceship and they end up on this abandoned planet where they sort of need to survive, but also just get to enjoy each other's company. And I'm generally a very cynical person. As soon as I realized what the story was, my first reaction was ugh, I can't do this with this teenage Romeo and Juliet bullshit. But I kept playing it more, and after a little while I was just I love these two and I'm gonna keep them together no matter what. And it was just such a beautiful, beautiful game with a really good soundtrack, and the gameplay is just so flowy and you just sort of glide over the world. But at the same time there's some crafting and survival and a little bit of combat to spice things up. And yes, I really, really loved Haven. If you haven't played it yet, I definitely recommend it. Another recent release that showed up on Game Pass is called Call of the Sea, and this is sort of a first-person narrative exploration game where you play a woman going off to, I think, a Polynesian island to look for her missing husband. And she has some health conditions that he has gone to look for a cure for, but then he never came back, so she went to look for him. And this was a cool game. I overall found the story and the puzzles, or lots of puzzles, were good but not great. But what I really liked about this was the time setting. I think it's 40s that takes place in, and the voice acting is really good. I think it's the same person from who played Delilah in Firewatch. It's really great voice acting, and I don't think this is a spoiler because you can tell from the first minute of the game because of some text that's on screen, but it's kind of a Lovecraft game. It's a Cthulhu game, but it's all just so bright and beautiful looking. It's not all dank and dark and creepy. It's very bright and sort of more upbeat, but at the same time there's still that mysterious, inexplicable kind of presence through it. So I really, really liked that kind of take on the Cthulhu mythos, or Cthulhu mythos. But it was good. I really liked the sort of idea of it and the concept of it more than I actually liked playing it. I also played through Sea of Solitude, which is one that I remember being interested in when it was first announced, but I just never got around to playing it. You play a girl who kind of looks like a demon, and she's going around in a boat, being sort of threatened by all of these monsters and sort of uncovering her past and some mental traumas that have happened to her before. Overall, I found it to be a pleasant game. Definitely not making any favorites lists or anything, but it was nice and had some sort of emotional catharsis, as well as some cool platforming and collectibles and things. And yeah, it was a pretty good game. I also played a game called Chicken Police, Paint It Red, I think is the subtitle. And this is a visual novel, very film noir style, and you play a police and you are a chicken. It's basically in this world where all of the people are animals. So you've got chickens, you've got cats, you've got rats, you've got insects, and there's it was pretty cool. I really liked the aesthetic of it. I found it had the perfect amount of animal puns, which was kind of a lot, but I didn't think they were overdoing it with the animal puns, and really good voice acting. And I greatly enjoyed this. You interrogate people and put together clues in order to find out what's going on. I did find at the end of the day, the story was pretty cliche. It was taking all those tropes from those kind of stories and just kind of reusing them. So it wasn't doing anything particularly new or interesting there, and it was sort of relying on the fact that you're a chicken, which I admit I was greatly amused by a lot of the time. And then the last game I played in December was a little game called Rivals. This is on PC only, I think, and it's just a little $5 game. It's about an hour long, and you're basically playing a detective, but you're not solving a crime. You're putting together the story of two musicians who started out as friends in the same band and eventually drew apart and had their own careers and a bit of a rivalry going. And you just have a basic interface with some notes you can read, like interviews with people. There's also cassette tapes of people being interviewed talking about these musicians. And as you go, you basically just have to put together the timeline from when they met or when they started their own band to how the story ends up. And I really liked it. It's a little similar to something like Return of the Obra Dinn, where you're just sort of getting the information and deducing it and having to put things together. It's not too easy to like cheat it, because you have to have like 5 right answers at a time in order to sort of progress the story forward and get new information. And I liked it. I really like anything that makes you feel like you're just need to grab a pen and paper and like sketch out timelines and like who did what and where and when these albums came out. And I really liked it. I definitely recommend it if you like those sort of like really neat, deductive, puzzly kind of games. So the other games I played in December all showed up on my top 10 list, and I'm just going to refer you to that if you want to hear more about them. They were Cloudpunk, Paradise Killer, and Signs of the Sojourner. All excellent, excellent games. Paradise Killer was such a nice surprise. I could not put that game down. It has such a cool aesthetic and good music, and I don't know, I feel like I'm going to have to check out the games like Danganronpa. People have said they're kind of similar, and I've never played one of those before, so yeah, I don't know. That was such a good game. It's like the perfect thing to play on Switch as well. So yeah, I think that's all for me for December. I will probably be a little scarce on the channel this month. As I said, I'm moving in 9 days now, so I'm going to be packing. Most of my games and consoles are already packed, so yeah, probably not any reviews coming, but you know, I'll try to get in a video or two if I have the time, and that's it. Let me know in the comments if there were any excellent games that you played in December or any fun pickups that you got. Don't forget to check out the channel Transparency for some great video essays and my appearances on the Off-kilter podcast and the RF Generation Collector Cast. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.